It is that time again, Tuesday, 5 p.m. Why Libertarian? My name is Matthew Struck. Good evening, everyone. Taking care of a little business here quickly. If you watch live, fantastic. Please comment or ask questions. I can respond to those on the fly. If you are watching the recorded version, please like, comment, subscribe, share, retweet. Do those same things if you're watching live as well. Help get this message out there. I do not get paid for this. This is not my 9 to 5, so please help me get this message out there for libertarians and anyone who might be a libertarian who doesn't know that they're a libertarian just yet. Really quickly, I usually don't do the Movember thing, but, I don't know. Maybe I've just been a little bit laxed. Definitely putting on some of the facial hair, so missed the opportunity to raise some money for charity, but I've definitely done as much charitable giving as I can this year for sure. But definitely working that. Also going a little not highbrow this evening. We got a little the cheap stuff or the cheaper stuff, I guess. Evan Williams. So kind of taking a little nip here, beginning of winter up here in New Jersey. So anyway, what are we talking about tonight? Well, the election's over, or for the most part. I mean, we're still fighting it out, in terms of what the president wants to try and keep pushing on. But for libertarians, for the most part, the election's over, with the exception of maybe Shane Hazel's involvement in the Georgia senator's race. But my thought was, all right, well, what now? I mean, do we just kind of crawl back into a hole and hibernate and wait till the next election cycle comes around? Or there's some things that we can be doing? Well, I wanted to put together like a top 10 list of things that we as libertarians can be doing after this election that will prep us for whatever the next cycle. It'll also improve us in our lives, whether it's our professional lives or our personal lives. So really a top 10 that we can kind of take with us after the election here. So my first one is, and if there are any children that end up watching this, you can tell them earmuffs right here. But number one is, don't take any shit from anyone. Okay. One thing that I've definitely kind of gathered within the last couple of weeks and months is I've gravitated towards, and hopefully I've been attracting some of these people that are libertarians and defenders of liberty and freedom that just don't take any shit. They know what they stand for. They know what their principles are. They're not apologists. They're not weak-willed. They are people of principle. And when you seriously sit down and think about what your principles are, you don't have to take any shit. You just defend that territory. You can keep an open mind, but it doesn't mean that you have to be weak-willed about it. This really particularly comes into play when the right and left wants to say, oh, well, the libertarians spoiled the election, or your candidate caused my candidate to lose, or whatever. Don't take any shit, okay? That is not something that you have to deal with. That's on them, okay? That's their reality. That's not yours, all right? Your candidate got votes because people wanted to vote for your candidate. That's what it came down to, okay? If you were a candidate, there was an email that was put out by Joe Jorgensen's campaign. Now, granted, it was used as a plea for fundraising, but I do not doubt for a second that some of these things happen. And they got some communications that basically came from people on the right-hand side of the aisle that were basically calling her names and saying that she ruined things, that the country was going to descend into socialism because she ran and took votes away from Trump or whatever. I responded. I posted online. I said, don't take any crap for that. That is not on you. That's on them. And if they want to rationalize them losing that way, then, so be it. Like, if that allows them to sleep at night, let them rationalize it the way that they want, but don't take any crap. You know what your principles are. You know what you stand for. All right. Number two, take stock of what libertarians actually were able to accomplish this election cycle. Okay. You got Marshall Burt in Wyoming, who got elected to the state legislature. All right. Huge win. You had two really awesome showings from Ricky Dale Harrington in Arkansas and Donald Rainwater in Indiana. All right. And then on top of that, like the icing on the cake is you had Shane Hazel, who essentially made people step back and think who they're voting for in the Georgia Senate races. Okay. They seriously now are thinking about who they should vote for. And the more people look under the hood, the more they're finding out that the candidates that they voted for, that they assumed stood for something, or they assumed meant, what they were saying, wasn't exactly always the case, right? They legitimately had to hold their feet to the fire. And what Shane is doing is he didn't shut up and go home. He didn't he took the L. He knew he probably wasn't going to win, but what he's doing is continuing to advocate that people actually seriously think about who they're voting for. And he's holding those candidates' feet to the fire and saying, come to me, get on my podcast, let's talk. Let me advocate for you if I feel like you're advocating for, the principles that I stand for: liberty, freedom, individual rights, right? Natural rights. But neither one of them have taken him up on it. And so, you know what? So be it. You will continue to reap the rewards of your action, or in this case, your inaction. And if your goal is to continue to kind of sweep how you stand on things under the rug, well, then keep doing it. It'll work until you lose. And quite frankly, I hope it's a libertarian that eats your lunch when you do lose. But take stock. There were some successes, not to mention the fact that Jo had a decent showing. She didn't have as good of a showing as Gary Johnson, but again, 2-term state governor. Okay, it was always going to be an uphill battle for her because she just didn't have that resume. Okay, and you know what? Within this election, it was so contentious. Look, I saw some stories about maybe Joe's votes went to Biden in Georgia or something like that. I don't know. I'm not in the process. I'm not in the business of trying to figure out whether or not there was, fraud in this election cycle or anything like that. But that being said, she still had a decent showing. Okay. Now, it didn't exactly move the ball forward, but you know what? We learned from it. Okay. So take stock in the fact that there were some successes. All right. Number 3, take stock of who you're listening to and following. Okay. Use this as an opportunity to kind of like clear out the skeletons in the closet, or the noise that you're bombarded with every single day, whether you're a Twitter person, a Facebook person, Snapchat, Insta, whatever you're on. If you're just a terrestrial radio person or a podcast person, take stock of who you're listening to. Okay. And I've got some questions you could ask. The first is, do they support the principles of individual liberty and freedom? Okay. And they don't have to, if the reason why you're listening to them is kind of to hear what the other side of the argument is saying. All right. But if they're not espousing those things, or if they're being hollow or fake, okay, don't waste your time. All right. There's only so many hours in a day. If they are not supporting those principles and you're not using it as a way to see what the other side of the argument is thinking, cut that out. It's just going to be a waste of your time. Do they defer to the Constitution even when their emotions or their feelings might be in conflict with that? That's a big one, okay? If all of a sudden someone's position on something changes based off of their feelings or their emotions, but the Constitution dictates something completely different than what they're saying, you got to seriously call into question how principled and consistent they are, all right? So make sure to take stock of those people that you're listening to as to whether or not that plays out. And I have some suggestions, okay? Again, these are not people that you have to follow or listen to, but I have some suggestions. I've already mentioned one of them already, Shane Hazel, Radical Podcast, all right? I think it's absolutely fantastic. Shane is awesome when it comes to things like, the kind of, educational part of the Constitution, when it comes to covering, I think right now he's going through the anti-federalist papers one by one, which is a mountainous task, but all of those kind of background historical things, and as well as the practical kind of constitutionality of things, Shane is fantastic at. Larry Sharp, The Sharp Way, awesome. He's on 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week. I don't know. Just find The Sharp Way somewhere on Twitter or on Facebook. I think he's on YouTube as well. He might even be on Insta. I don't know. He said he's on all the things. So just look for The Sharp Way. You'll find him. Larry's fantastic. Very practical, level-headed dude, extremely consistent. Okay. That's what I appreciate about Larry. One I just found recently, the Lions of Liberty podcast. All right. Not a huge podcast, but definitely high quality. Lions of Liberty podcast. If you don't follow Mosh Teray, you must be living under a rock, because Maj is absolutely fantastic. For those of you who don't know, Maj is the founder of Black Guns Matter. If you're looking him up online, it's MAJ and then Toure, Toure. All right. Maj is fantastic to follow. Pro 2A, I would call it Black empowerment from the standpoint of the Constitution, right? Like going into the hood and educating people on what their constitutional rights are and what they can and can't do under the Constitution and what's protected. Also educating them on the Second Amendment and how gun legislation typically unfairly hits the Black community, right? It doesn't proportionately affect everyone. It affects everyone, but unfairly hits the Black community. He does amazing work. I actually just bought 3 of his t-shirts today. The t-shirts I got were the Freedom Above Everything t-shirts. Absolutely fantastic. Eric D. July, all right? If you look him up on YouTube, you would also find them under Young Ripa 59. Eric D. July, he's got like a lot that appeal to a lot of different people. If you're Libertarian, he is fantastic for that stuff. He is not afraid to call people out on their crap. If you're being a statist, if you're being socialist, if you're being inauthentic, can't stands this SJW culture, and I can't blame him. And he calls that out constantly. His show, the live cast, is called For Canon's Sake, CANON, For Canon's Sake. And he also does rap music, which is fantastic. So if you're like a rap and hip hop person, you'll probably appreciate that. He also live streams. He's a gamer. So if you're a gamer and some of those other things also do appeal to you, definitely look him up. He's on Twitch, Young Ripa 59. Spike Cohen, all right, our 2020 vice presidential nominee, is someone fantastic to follow and listen to when he throws commentary out there into the world. And Spike is a part of Muddied Waters Media. They do, vlogging, podcasting, and they put some fantastic content out there as well. And the last one that I have to do a better job of really kind of paying attention to is, and I always butcher his last name, Todd Hagopian, Hagopian. Todd is absolutely fantastic. I forget what position. I think he just ran this last election cycle, but he is big into putting information out there. He's also part of Chief Chats podcast, so CHIEF Chats podcast. I think that's all one word. So definitely something to listen to and follow. All right. All right. Number 4. After you're done with those first 3, read a freaking book. Read something from time to time. All right. We're in a electronics dominated culture. I mean, shit, you're watching me here on this video, right? We're in electronics dominated culture, but whether you read an ebook, listen to it, or actually have the physical book in your hands, read a book. Okay. Educate yourself on libertarian principles, economics, just basic history is also important for you to know and understand. Some suggestions here. I actually put a post up on Twitter asking for suggestions. I would like to do an episode strictly dedicated towards like a libertarians, reading list, from introductory to kind of like more high level type stuff. All right. Some of the suggestions that I have for you that will also be reiterated and expanded upon in that future episode are things like Common Sense by Thomas Paine for, basic coverage of kind of like rights and freedom. Radicals for Capitalism by Doherty, all right, Doherty, Doherty. Capitalism and Freedom by Milton Friedman. I know that there's some contention within libertarian ranks as far as whether or not you're a Rothbardian or a Friedman guy or Mises or maybe some concoction of all of those. But it's good to be well-rounded in that respect. So Capitalism and Freedom by Friedman, Anatomy of the State by Rothbard. Rothbard is like a, I don't know, I'm probably going to get in trouble for trying to characterize Murray. I never had the opportunity of meeting him, but I guess more on the anarchist kind of end of the spectrum of libertarianism. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. Let's see. The Road to Serfdom by Hayek is always a big one. That's a good one, most people say. The Theory of Money and Credit by Mises, all right, Mises, The Theory of Money and Credit by Mises. Human Action by von Mises. Human Action is another good one. Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. Again, this kind of falls into Friedman was kind of like this disciple of Adam Smith. So again, understand that you're getting kind of like that side of the economic piece of it, but Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. Economic Sophisms by Bastiat, 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 Economic Sophisms, Sophisms. If you have like 9,000 hours to read a book, you can read all of Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. It is worth the time to read, but again, it is a mountain to climb. So just know that you're in for a long haul on that one. One that came up that I was not familiar with. A couple of these I'm going to have to go back and myself I'm going to have to read, but I've heard some very good feedback on them. This one's called No Treason, The Constitution of No Authority by Spooner. All right. That's a good one to read. Democracy in America by de Tocqueville. All right. Jesus, I don't even. De Tocqueville. Small d-e, all right, space, capital Tocqueville. De Tocqueville. All right. There will be a quiz at the end of this to see if you can spell de Tocqueville's last name. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. This is one of the other ones that I hadn't really thought about. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Heinlein, Heinlein, Heinlein. All right. This one's kind of a wild card, and I might catch some flack for saying this, but hey, hold on to your shoelaces for this one. Manufacturing Consent by Chomsky. All right. Now, this is not a libertarian book. All right. So understand that straight out. It is not a libertarian book. Chomsky is the furthest thing from a libertarian. In fact, Chomsky is probably one of these people that began the complete farce of trying to say that libertarians or what our present libertarians are, this method, just another method of control, which is complete ridiculousness. So understand that he's coming at it from that angle. But Manufacturing Consent talks about how you get a nation or a large group of individuals almost brainwashed or to be complicit in the decisions that are made for them. I find this bitterly ironic because if you read a good portion of Manufacturing Consent and kind of like bits and starts or like quotes from there, you'd be like, wow, this is someone who understands that big government is a problem and that they shouldn't be trusted because they try and essentially, make the masses drunk and make decisions for them that are not on their own behalf. The problem is that Chomsky, typically throughout his entire life, came to the conclusion that the answer was this kind of socialist state at the end of the day, which ironically, every time it's been tried, devolves into the same exact thing that he was talking about in Manufacturing Consent. But that being said, it teaches you to see and to fine tune your bullshit meter. Okay. When it comes to things like propaganda, when it comes to things like, all right, what are they messaging here? And what are they trying to get me to support? Or what are they trying to get me to buy into? That probably is not in my best interest. All right. So again, it's not for everyone, but go into it understanding that frame of reference. All right, so that's number 4 is read something. Number 5, evaluate your personal health. All right. We just came through a period of time. Obviously, we're still in the midst of this, call it what it is, pandemic, farce, stealing of our freedom, mass hysteria, whatever you want to call it. Okay. We're in the middle of something that should make you question your personal health. All right. We also came through a very contentious election season where things were anxious and everyone was, high anxiety and stressed and blood pressure and scared and all this other anger, all this other stuff. All right. So getting out of the end of that, think about your mental health, your physical health, and also your financial health. Okay. This is one people forget. Like if you're healthy mentally and physically, but you're not healthy financially, all right, you're still going to be much lower on the freedom index, all right? Because if you are basically indentured servant, which I've been for a good portion of my life because of student loans and things like that, you're not able to fully exercise your freedom. You are beholden to someone else, all right? So you have to get that in line, all right? Evaluate the amount of time that you spend with your family, all right? Make sure that you're not just kind of like, I'm an animal sometimes. I would work 24/7 until I dropped, all right? And then sleep a day and a half and then do it all over again. Don't be like that, especially if you have family or people that are close to you. Evaluate how much time you're spending with them, all right? And spend some time with them and try and shed all the rest of the stuff. Try and fixate on them for at least a dedicated portion of time, all right? Focus on your support system. Who's in your inner circle, right? It's the whole adage that you are the sum total of the 5 closest people to you. That's true, right? To a certain extent. I mean, it might not be completely true, but it's true at least to a certain extent. I mean, the people that are closest to you have the biggest impact on you. Are they not pushing you to succeed? Are they not pushing you to be more successful? Okay. Evaluate that. Who's close to you? Who maybe you should distance yourself from? Who have you met, or who is someone that you would like to draw in closer and try and become more of, a part of their support system, or vice versa? Okay. Do that analysis. Look at your career. Are you happy where you're at? Liberty requires, or doesn't require, but I mean, liberty and freedom allow you to be able to look at things and determine whether you're happy or not. If you're not happy, or if your current career or profession or even your financial status doesn't afford you the ability to be truly free and have liberty, you need to change that. And you got to find a way to change it so that, first of all, don't decide to make a change that makes you worse off and put you further in a hole. This has to be calculated. But in doing that calculation, figure out what you have to do in order to get to where you want to be. All right. Fantastic book for this is The Other 8 Hours, something that compelled me to start my own business and leave a cushy job working for a big company with a decent salary and even more money promised to me in the future. I left to start my own thing. All right. And it's called The Other 8 Hours. Fantastic book. Some of the references are outdated, but it still holds true. All right. The things that you do during the day and the things that you do during that 8 hours when you're not sleeping or working, that's the value right there. That's the value. All right. So definitely read up on that. I want to also touch on that financial piece. One of the things I am most adamantly against is government involvement in student loans and educational funding. They have literally screwed over generations of people. And again, for the most part, it might have been, good thoughts or the attempt to do good things. Okay. But file it under the law of unintended consequences. They've screwed over an entire generation or two of students and of young adults who now can't start families. They can't buy homes. They are going to be indebted for most of their life. All right. And they fell victim to the same thing that the federal government does. All right. They emulated bad behavior and they were enabled by people that conduct themselves badly. And we allowed them to do it. All right. But that being said, I've had problems with my financial health for most of my adult life. I've taken the steps to get out of that. And because student loans and things like that can't be disposed of during bankruptcy, I've actually been able to get a service and a law firm that helps me negotiate down those debts and pay them off. Okay. Not in full. We're negotiating down to a level that makes more sense and is more sustainable. Okay. If it gets put on a payment plan or if I can cut a single check in order to get rid of it, but at least it's getting rid of it constructively. Okay. Get your financial house in order. Do whatever you need to. And if it's something where you've been kicking the can down the road, it's like, stop. It has to stop today, not tomorrow, not next week, because the further you get down the hole, the worse it gets. And it gets really bad because one day you go off the cliff and then there's just no money and there's nothing, right? And now you're now you're destitute or you're literally living hand to mouth because there's no credit anymore. There's no playing the shell game every single month. It's just gone. All right. So remember that your financial health is imperative. It's imperative. All right. So number 6, advocate in your close circles for libertarian principles. All right. Friends, family, whatever. I'm not saying pick fights. I mean, fine. If you want to pick fights, and go ahead and pick fights. You don't even have to say that they're libertarian principles. Just when you're talking about some issue, come at it from a libertarian standpoint. Come at it from the standpoint of constitutionality, freedom, and liberty. Okay. And you don't even have to say this is a libertarian principle. All right. You definitely can if you want. All right. But advocate for it. Don't just shut up. All right. And if you're not someone who's combative, you don't have to be combative. Just like, sow a little doubt in what everyone thinks is the presumptive answer. Okay. If they're talking about big government answers, just sow a little doubt. Make them question. Make them think. All right. Number 7, exercise your rights. Okay. This goes with number 6, freedom of speech. Okay. You get to speak your mind. All right. Protest. Right. Advocate and protest and assemble and mobilize, especially with lockdown orders and all this other stuff. You have a right to assemble. They can't stop that. It's the First Amendment. They'll try, but they can't stop it. All right. Exercise your rights. Second Amendment. Right. If you've ever thought about getting a firearm, something like that, and you have the means to do it, all right, do it legally, but exercise your right. Even if it's something I was born and raised the son of a police officer, but this year for the first time, I have my firearms ID card, and I just recently bought a couple of rifles. Okay. I haven't dipped my toe into the handgun arena just yet because New Jersey is really rough in terms of purchasing handguns. But I have a 12 gauge that I can use for sporting purposes, and I have a 22 that I can just kind of mess around with, and also teach my young son how to fire a gun. Get out there, use your rights. Okay. Your freedoms and your rights are there for you to be had, but they don't just come to you. Okay. They're not handed to you. You have to go out there and you have to exercise them. Okay. And take advantage of them and use them, because if you don't, the less you use them, the less people see you use them, and the less they think that they're important, or maybe even the less that you think that they're important. All right. So know that. Exercise your rights. All right. Number 8, look at joining your local, state, or national Libertarian Party. Now, again, we're a bunch of libertarians. You can't tell me to do anything. That's fine. I'm not telling you have to. What I'm saying is look at it. And even if you don't become a member, right, even if you don't want to pay whatever it is, I forget what it is, but again, this year has been a year of firsts for me. I am now a member of the state and the national party. All right. Even if you don't become like a dues paying member, all right, go to some of their events. They have outreach events. They have educational events, or find out if they're going to be at somewhere so that you can go and talk to them and pick their brain. All right. If they're going to have a virtual event that's open to anyone, go find out. Just introduce yourself. Okay. Figure out if you fit, if you like the people, if you like what they're saying. Okay. If you don't, then you don't have to. All right. But figure it out. Okay. Take part, put yourself out there. You have some level of freedom to right now, especially with how many of the parties are doing virtual events right now. All right. Number 9, start a publication, a podcast, a vlog, something. Okay. If you just want to kind of vent, that's fine. Vent. Right. But use it as a means to an end. Okay. The means to the end could be you furthering your knowledge and doing research and educating yourself on the issues and the implications and things like that. If that's the case, fantastic. At least you're getting something out of it, even if no one ever reads it. Okay. Do it for your own exercise to make you better off and more knowledgeable and more well-rounded. All right. But some examples, again, some tools of examples of tools that you can use. One that I use in my professional life, HubSpot Academy. Okay. You don't have to buy their products in order to have access to some of that stuff, but they teach you some of the basics of, internet marketing and digital marketing. So you can go through some of their certification courses completely free. Now they're going to market to you. They're going to try and sell you, a CRM system or a website, service system or something like that. It's kind of expensive. So no, they're going to market to you something that's pretty expensive. So, but take advantage of it. If they're giving you something for free, that doesn't mean that you can't use it just because you're not going to buy their product at the end. All right. HubSpot Academy is really great. If you want to start a podcast, one of the easiest, lowest friction ways to do it is an app. They also operate a website that's also an access point, but anchor.fm, just like a ship's anchor, ANCHOR.FM. All right. Start a podcast. All right. Again, it can just be your own musings and things like that, your own rants, but do some research. Whatever it is, you want to do current events, you want to do old stuff, you want to take a new slant on things, you want to talk about whatever, drug legalization, you want to talk about, the education system, whatever you want to talk about, okay? Figure it out and just do it. Like, jump off the cliff. The first one is going to be awful. The second one's going to be awful, right? What I'm doing right now is dozens or hundreds of different iterations, and it's still not great. Right. But I know that, and I'm working towards making it better. And what's also great is for each one of these episodes, I get to do some research. I get to do some brainstorming and some background. All right. So remember that. Start a publication, anchor.fm, great for podcasts. Or you want to do a vlog or a blog or something like that. It's easy. Just Google. There's tons of free blog platforms and really low-cost blog platforms that are out there. Go to YouTube, okay? And YouTube has a ton of instructional videos on how to start free vlogs and how to market the vlog and stuff like that. Super easy. Just take it in bite size. But the hardest part is that first step, right? It's committing to doing it and taking that first step, whatever it is. Starting a Facebook page that's dedicated to it, getting a logo or something like that. All of that is that first step. That's the hardest part. So get going with it. All right. And then be consistent, follow through with it, become part of a community. All right. Become part of the conversation that happens online surrounding the issue that you're talking about, or the principles or kind of the perspective that you're coming from and the people that are talking about it every single day. All right. And number 10 is a big one. All right. It's a big ask, and not everyone's going to be good for this. Okay. You could be better as an activist. You could be better as a volunteer for a campaign or helping to run a campaign, which is something within this. All right. But the big one is look into running for office, and remember that you don't have to run for governor. You don't have to run for Congress, the first one out of the gate. In fact, I would advocate that you don't shoot that high. All right. I think the first things that you should look at are things that are simple and things that you might actually have a high opportunity of being successful at. All right. School board. Run for the school board and advocate for libertarian principles from within the education system. Okay. Run for town council. Run for a board at the town. That's not even town council or mayor, but run for a board, whatever it is. Zoning. I don't know. A bunch of towns have crazy types of boards and committees all over the place. But, or utility authorities. Run to be a commissioner on a utility authority. Something local where people know you. They'll know your name. You'll get some votes. Okay. And maybe you might win. And then you get to advocate for libertarian principles, and you get to build that resume just in case you want to run again after that. All right. But look into it. There's small races that you can win or at least be competitive in. Leverage the training through the Libertarian Party. And also something that I'm doing this weekend, I'm going to the Young Americans for Liberty. They do like a boot camp, 1-day boot camp. I think it's like 4 or 5 hours. Everyone meets in one place. They do a boot camp, and they just talk through how to start a campaign, how to file the paperwork, how to fundraise, how to get volunteers, how to structure things, right? All the rules and regs that go with running a campaign. Use those resources, okay? And don't use just one. Go to a couple and take the best parts and the worst parts and kind of tinker with it, all right? But leverage some of those training opportunities. And the last thing is just pick the brains of the folks that have recently run, okay? And maybe even it's libertarian candidates that have recently run, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just other candidates that are R's or D's or independents, all right? But some of the people I would advocate for you, again, Shane Hazel, DM him on Twitter, follow him and DM him on Twitter, or comment and see if he can, throw you some tips. Mike Rufo ran here in New Jersey for a congressional spot. That's Rufo for Congress on Twitter. Definitely reach out to him and pick his brain. Elliot Sherman ran down in Texas against Dan Crenshaw. Reach out to him on Twitter or on Facebook. He has a big following there, and see if he'll give you some tips or some advice. And Joe Evans, who ran for, I forget where he ran for. I think it was Congress up in Idaho. Reach out to Joe, and Joe will help you out too. He's fantastic. And then one of these people, a couple of them have some shows and podcasts and stuff like that you can also cut your teeth on, whether it's actually being on the show or volunteering or whatever. Okay. Reach out to these people, pick their brains, find out what worked, what didn't. Okay. Follow Larry Sharp. Larry talks a lot about getting libertarians to run, and then also what it takes to get them to be successful when they run. All right. So remember that the Sharp way is fantastic for libertarians looking to run. And that's it. That's the 10. All right. So really quickly, again, don't take shit from anyone. Take stock of what libertarians were able to accomplish. Take stock of who you're listening to or following on a daily. Read a book, would you? Read a book. Evaluate your personal health. And remember, it's not just physical, it's also mental, okay, and financial. Those are big ones. Advocate in your close circles for libertarian principles. Exercise your rights. They don't exercise themselves. Look at joining your local, state, or national Libertarian Party. Start a publication, podcast, or a vlog, or look into running for office or volunteering for a campaign or to help out with the party, something like that, right? Getting involved. And that's it. Pretty simple, right? Obviously, it sounds simple, but the hardest part is getting started. If you need some resources, you need some help, you want to ask me questions about how to get started. If you want to do something collaboratively with me, let's go. You want to start up a podcast or a vlog or a blog or something like that. Let's, collaborate and do a side-by-side stream or a collaboration, or write something together, or do a cross-posted vlog video or something like that. I am more than happy to help you out if you're honestly looking to start something and get it rolling. So you can definitely comment or leave those questions. You could also email us. It's whylibertarianvideo@gmail.com, whylibertarianvideo@gmail.com. And that's it. So another Tuesday, another live cast. Reminder, every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, coming at you live. Please like, comment, share, retweet, tag a friend, tag yourself, ask a question, have a conversation with me, and I would love to hear from you. I appreciate your time. Again, we're just on the tail end of Thanksgiving. I want to thank anyone who ends up watching this and spends their time with me while I put this out there into the world. And especially if you can, share it or kind of add to it, I am very much appreciative of you. So with that, have a great evening, Liberty lovers. I'll see you next week.